Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Hot Takes with Booby. I'm your host, Booby, and let's just get into it. Let's get started today, baby. The college football playoff recently announced they're going to keep this 4-team format for the foreseeable future. And honestly, it is the right decision for college football. It's perfect the way it is. And even though it'll never be perfect, no matter if they expand or not, this is what you need to do to keep college football competitive from the start all the way to the playoff. But you can't just say these things, right? You can't just go out here and say things like that without reasoning. Come on, Booby. So guess what? Here are the reasons why it's perfect the way it is. Now, we have to address March Madness every time this time of the year comes and goes. All right, March Madness is exciting from the play-in games all the way to the final. And every year there's always this hypothetical for college football fans. Oh, wouldn't that be exciting if college football did something like that? You're right, it would. It wouldn't solve anything, though. It would cause a lot more problems than it would cause solutions. Because you got to understand, if you have a big tournament like that, you have to either reduce the regular season, you have to start earlier, or you have to end later, which kind of conflicts with NFL playoffs, with basketball, so on and so forth. Follow the money, my friends. And basketball ain't football. All right, basketball, there isn't that much contact. There isn't a lot of physicality. There isn't a goddamn car accident every time a play happens. You should see the way these guys hit, man. These are some big hits these guys take over the course of a season. That's why they play a 12-game regular season. That's why football, you'll only see a maximum of like 16 games. Because that adds on to a human body week after week after week. So you would have to shorten the regular season. And that causes more problems for everybody. For the out of conference, the conference schedules would start earlier and it would just cause more problems for the little guys. Don't worry about the little guys. We will address the little guys in a little bit. You're not going to like it, but I'm sorry, this is facts. The whole reason that we went to the playoff format was because the BCS system that we used in the past always left us with more questions than answers. It would always give us a 1 and a 2. And the biggest example I have on my mind is the 2012 BCS National Championship game. Alabama versus Notre Dame. Looked good for the computer, right? It wasn't. Game was over by halftime. Alabama slaughtered Notre Dame. And on the outside looking in at number 3 was that Oregon Ducks team. Those dangerous Oregon Duck teams from 2009 all the way to Marcus Mariota graduating. Never got a shot at the title. They got one time they made it. They didn't get through. But that was a year they deserved to be in. But the computer saw Notre Dame was undefeated. It didn't care that Notre Dame was playing down to their competition. They were in tight games with mediocre teams. They saw undefeated. They saw great. And guess what? Oregon never got a shot at the title that year, and they could have very well won that national title with all that speed they had. And we were forced to watch Alabama and Notre Dame in a goddamn laughing show. It was bad. Notre Dame didn't deserve to be out there. And that's really the reason why we moved on. So those 4 teams would get a shot. And because those 4 teams, those other 2 teams were on the outside looking in, they always had their hypothetical. Oh, we would have won it. We could have did better there. Now, I need to stress this more than anything. It will never be enough. All right, think about how it is with 4 right now. Everyone's crying for number 5 and number 6. All right, let's go to an 18. Number 9 and number 10 are going to be crying. Let's go to 12. Let's go to 14, 16, 32, 64, 128. It doesn't matter. That last spot will always be a hot topic. It doesn't matter how many teams you have in the playoff. It will always be debated. They will always tell you you never get it right. It will never fix the system. It doesn't matter if you expand or not. You will always have controversy, and there will always be argument on who deserves that last spot. I mean, think about it. Ohio State in 2014 and TCU. It was the first year, and everybody was arguing about that. When Ohio State jumped TCU, because Ohio State played a tougher schedule, they played a tougher conference championship team where they blew out a ranked team, and TCU played, they played a terrible Iowa State team. Really wasn't an argument in my mind, but a lot of people felt it was robbery when Ohio State went on to win it. Sorry, Schedule matters. The thing about this is it's these 4 teams. Then it puts a lot of emphasis on the regular season. The regular season is very important. All right? From week 1 all the way to conference championship week. It's very important that you play hard, you win your games. The margin of error is very small. It's slim to none. You lose 1 game, and I'm sorry to say it, you have a very high probability of not making it. Now, some years there's more chaos than others, where we see 1-loss teams squeak their way in. But it's very unlikely. A year like this year, where top teams were dropping left and right, you love to see it, but at the same time, you cannot hope for it every year. It forces you to have a tough strength of schedule, as well as not only winning your games. All right, being undefeated doesn't matter if you played guppies the whole year. If you played teams that were terrible all year. Those out-of-conference games at the beginning of the year, now you need to schedule them tough. Now you need to put a ranked team on there. A well-known team, a blue blood. You have to go on the road to earn your respect, to earn that number 1 spot. It ain't enough to be just undefeated, because I'm telling you, if there's 5 undefeated teams and one of those teams played a terrible schedule, sorry to say it, you ain't making it in, my friend. And nobody's going to shed a tear for you because you played worse teams. If we expand, this regular season now becomes less important. Let's do the hypothetical 16-team playoff. All right, now you don't have to win all your games. Now you can drop 1 or 2. There's never been a 2-loss team in the college football playoff. There will be a 2-loss team in a 16-team bracket. There will be a 3-loss team, most likely. A 3-loss team gets a shot at the title. And if you don't believe me, look at the rankings in the past years about how these Power 5 teams get ranked. All right? They drop a couple games in conference, or they drop a couple games out of conference games, but they have a good in-conference, they have a good in-conference record. They will be ranked regardless of how many losses they have. Now you're not playing to be top 4, which means you have to win your conference. You have to be a top team in the country. Now you're just playing to make it in. The conference title doesn't mean enough anymore. Now it's just, all right, I can drop a game or 2. I just got to win out. I got to look good, and I can squeak my way in. And what happens if a 3 seed wins? We're back in the BCS where we're asking questions. Who'd they play? Did they play anybody good in the playoff? Did they have an easy run? Did they beat Alabama? There's going to be more problems and more argument than there already is with a 14 bracket. You don't have to be perfect anymore. Now you just got to be good enough to get in. And it's not what college football is about. We're not handing out spots to teams that don't even deserve a look at the trophy. They don't deserve a shot to be in the playoff. Put them in a bowl game. Let them go out with a little bit of dignity. You do not get a shot at the title. Now, Uncle Booby has to go through a couple of common misconceptions for you. All right? Anybody else, they want to do this. But guess what? Your Uncle Booby wants you to be educated. He wants you to learn. He wants you to put your thinking caps on for a little bit. So let me put you through some of these misconceptions about how, expansion would be good for him when it really won't. But Uncle Booby, what about the little guys? The group of 5 with the NIL deals and all that? What about them? All right? It's very easy. Schedule a better out-of-conference schedule. All right? You got to schedule big guys. You got to schedule tough teams. You're going to have to go on the road, because none of them are going to come to you because you're the hungry one. You're the little guy, so you got to go to them and win those games. And then you have to dominate your conference. Or you go to a new conference. Big 12's looking for people. Get your ass in the Big 12. Now you're a Power 5 conference team. You got to understand, with the NIL deal, I show no sympathy to anybody crying over it right now because it's not regulated. Everything you got the death penalty for in the past is allowed now. You can give these kids money. You can give them cars. You can move their family to a better neighborhood. It is unregulated and it's open season right now. And if you're not taking advantage of it now to build up your program when you can literally throw millions of dollars at a 17-year-old kid, well then I'm sorry. You're just behind the game. You're not doing it. And you deserve to be where you're at. Recruit better. There's really no explanation for it. Another misconception. But Booby, expansion will help the little guys. No, it won't. You really think if we go to a 16 seed format, right? If we go to a 16 team playoff, you think they're going to give group of 5 schools an automatic bid? If you think that, you're naive. You're an idiot. You're stupid. You need to read up on this stuff. They'll give Power 5 teams an automatic bid. You think they're going to give the American Athletic, the CUSA, the Sun Belt, the Mountain West, or any of those schools an automatic bid? Just because the big guys get one, now they're going to throw you a pity one? No. You are not going to get an automatic bid for that soft schedule you play all year. And I understand you can't choose your schedule. But at the end of the day, you're not playing a Big Ten schedule. You're not playing an SEC schedule. You really think you deserve an automatic bid? This ain't basketball, bud, all right? Hey, you gotta understand this. The whole reason they would expand is to let more Power 5 conference teams in. How many times have you seen the Pac-12 in the college football playoff? Once. Twice. You can count them on one hand. That's how many times they've been in. This is an excuse to get a couple of those guys in. This is an excuse to get a couple more SEC teams in. Get a Texas A&M in who's always been on the outside looking in. Get an LSU in, a Florida in when they're contending. This is an excuse for, if you look past to this past year, to let Ohio State in. To let a Penn State in when they don't win their conference. They're not going to let the little guys in. They'll let 1 or 2 in. They'll throw you at the bottom. They'll throw you to Alabama. They'll throw you to Georgia or whoever the top 2 seeds are. But you really think they're going to just let you walk in? No. You're still going to have that uphill battle where you're going to have to schedule tough and you're going to have to go undefeated to even get a shot at the playoff. Nothing will change for you. Nothing will change. I'm sorry to say that, but that is the reality of the situation. Another one. But Booby, we see the same teams every year. Yeah, we do. You know why? They win. You don't like it? Beat them. I mean no joke when I say this. You can cry all you want about Alabama being in every year, Ohio State making it in every year. What happens? They run through their schedule. Nobody beats them. Or that somebody does beat them, but guess what? Everybody in front of them has a free pass to the playoff and they fold. The lights get on them and they close their eyes. That's why you see the same teams every year. You know why? They run through the gauntlet. They win. They're dynasties. You can't beat them. So instead of crying about the same teams getting in and then expanding it just so there's a little more inclusion, how about you just beat them? All right? Win the game. Win your conference. You want to be the best, you got to beat the best. Look at what Michigan did this year. Michigan had Ohio State in what was the Big Ten title game in the last game of the season, the best rivalry in all of college football, and they showed up. They beat Ohio State and they took their playoff spot. Georgia got their rematch with Alabama for the national title. For all the eyes of the world are on them, and Georgia beat them. You can cry all you want about these teams being in. But if you don't beat them, guess what? You're going to watch them on the couch while they're playing for the big prize. And my final one, which is my favorite one, my absolute favorite one. The current system isn't fair to Notre Dame. No, Notre Dame just isn't fair to college football. All right, what has Notre Dame done since the 1980s? I'll wait. Oh, yeah, they've done a whole lot of nothing. All right, they're 0-8 in major bowl games, whether it be a BCS Bowl, a New Year's Six, a college football playoff game, or a national title game. They are 0-8. All right, they don't deserve to get into the playoff until they join a conference. That's a video for a whole nother day. I have that one written out. This one kind of trumped it on the importance, but I will talk about that. They don't play in a conference. They play down to their opponents every year. They don't look like a dominant team. And they shouldn't be allowed to get into these big games or get into the playoff just because of the Notre Dame name. All right? This ain't the 80s anymore. The 2000s ain't been good to you. Join a conference or never play in the playoff again. I show no sympathy to Notre Dame fans. You got to win something first if you want to sit here and cry and moan about things. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I understand. It might be a little more exciting if we go to 8. If we go to 16 teams, it might be a little more exciting. But this is the best format for start to finish. All right, the regular season still means something. This ain't the NFL, all right, where you could just be mediocre. If you could play in the NFC East, you go 500, you make the playoffs just because you won your division. No. You need to be a top team in the country the whole year if you want a shot of lifting that trophy. I will die on this hill. The 4-team playoff is the best format because it's the most competitive and it puts more emphasis on perfection. A 16-team playoff will not do that. That hurt your feelings? Sorry. Peace, love. Hot Takes with Booby, baby. Like, subscribe, comment. You agree with this? You disagree with this? Let me know in the comments. We'll have a little bit of a discussion, man.